Hey, everybody. This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. I feel like this is the calm before the storm. I'm sure you have recognized that there has been a lot of distraction and more soon to come our way. I mean, we have Heart of Invictus dropping. I plan on sucking it up and taking one for the team and reviewing it so you guys don't have to. As much as I don't want to do it and very well could skip it, it's still important we keep our eye on it for the mere fact we know for sure that there will be lies somewhere in whatever Meghan or Harry say and do. I think the most important thing is to continue to keep holding these two accountable. They very much want us to forget all the lies and hurtful things that they have done over the last 5 years. So stay tuned for that. We also have a barrage of news by the Sussex camp leading up to the 1-year anniversary of the death of the Queen. So look out for Meghan and Harry trying to upstage and steal the spotlight and make it about themselves. We're already starting to see these news articles coming out of Harry setting to appear at the annual Well Child charity event on September 7th. Of course, they note that Meghan is not going to be there with Harry because she is at home taking care of those alleged children, but we all know that she's not showing up because she doesn't want to get booed into oblivion again. We're also seeing BS articles about Harry and Meghan wanting to come back to the UK and Harry sitting down with the king and trying to establish some type of reconciliation. We all know that this is not true, and it's sad to say, but I don't think William will ever trust Harry again. William is going to put his own family ahead of bringing his brother back anywhere near his family. As far as Meghan Markle, the only way that any type of family reconciliation, in my opinion, will happen is if Harry leaves her and he comes back crawling with his tail between his legs. But even at that point, the family will keep Harry at a distance. Those relationships will never be the same again. Will Harry get to see the king? Is Harry going to go back and celebrate King Charles' 75th birthday? It's anyone's guess. We all know that this is the standard propaganda that this couple likes to push out. Now they're dangling the kids as either an excuse for not being with one another. You've got Harry saying that he's going to bring Archie to see the king. Like, all of this we know is BS. We're definitely not being told the real story of what's going on. So all this propaganda being pushed out is all deflection. I mean, how do we not know if Harry is currently now in Europe? We don't. Nobody knows if he came back to California after his trip from Tokyo. The last time we saw him was with Meghan back around her birthday at the beginning of August. As we all have speculated, these two are definitely living separate lives. I do think any request being made by Harry to meet with the king is most definitely about money and how to get out of a very complicated and compromising situation. Which now leads me to raise a topic that has been flying under the radar since King Charles has become king. And that has to do with those titles for the invisible children and what that means to Uncle Sam. We all know there are certain monetary benefits that come with the inherited HRH titles that Meghan and Harry fought so hard for the second the Queen passed away. Who could forget how obnoxious these two were? Even though that the family was grieving, they continued to keep putting this stuff out into the press in order to force the hand of the king. In my opinion, I believe the reason why King Charles took as long as he did to acknowledge the prince and princess titles for those invisible kids is because of the money and potential assets that do go along with inheriting those titles. You see, dipshit Harry and ignorant international studies Markle had a baby on US soil named Betty. You see, Betty, whether Henry likes it or not, is an American citizen and is subjected to American tax law, which most definitely includes the 2010 Obama administration FATCA law that was put into effect, which stands for Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. Before I get into how this applies to Betty, let's talk about how this applies to Harry and potentially Archie. So, FATCA was reportedly enacted for the mere purpose of detecting the non US financial accounts of the US resident taxpayers rather than to identify non resident US citizens and enforce collections. So, here's another reason as to why the people should know about Harry's visa status. Is he here on a working visa? Is he here as a resident? What's the story? Because we need to understand, is he paying his fair share of taxes? Now, as I understand it, most likely he's taking advantage of the FATCA agreement between the UK and the United States. And the whole point of this agreement is to avoid the double taxation and the prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income and on capital gains. Could Harry have paid a few bucks to the UK government in order to avoid paying thousands of dollars here in the United States? Absolutely. And I think a lot of that has to do with this residency that he had in the UK of Frogmore Cottage. Perhaps that's the reason why we're hearing these ridiculous rumors of him wanting to rent a place in Kensington Palace. Who knows? Maybe Harry has a place in UK and nobody knows about that, but using it as his primary address in order to handle this tax situation. Oh, it's almost a given that he's doing something about this because this exposes the rest of the Windsor family. So perhaps maybe him staying on as counselor of state is serving the purpose of keeping the IRS out of the Windsor's financial affairs. But you see, folks, that's not the case with little Betty. There is a real potential for the Windsor fortune to be taxed by the US IRS. Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb. Did you know that US citizens must pay taxes no matter where they live? So, for example, if little Betty decides to go work for the monarchy or anywhere else outside the US, she's going to have to pay US taxes. Now, there is some type of relief and exemption for up to $102,000. But even if, let's say, Betty does work for the monarchy and the salary is less than $102,000, Betty would still have to declare all assets on accounts and pay taxes on that. So this opens up a view into the private wealth of the Windsors, something that has been kept a secret for hundreds of years. Lucky for Betty, United States is one of few countries that tax its citizens no matter where they live in the world. So unless Betty decides at age 18 to renounce her citizenship to the US, she has to pay taxes to the US, which means if, let's say, these HRH titles do come with monetary value, and if anything was inherited from the late Queen, as well as anything in the future when King Charles passes away, Betty's going to have to declare that and pay taxes on it, which then opens this Pandora's box for the government to go in and investigate and audit all the accounts where money is tied for little Betty. The only way to avoid this is if little Betty renounces her American citizenship and becomes a citizen of the UK, which she can't do until she is of age to make that decision, which is at 18. But even then, as a fun fact, if the US government suspects that, let's say, little Betty is renouncing her US citizenship just to avoid taxes, then the US government could rule that this person is an unqualified expatriate and actually be barred from entering the US ever again. Now, with Archie, it's a little bit different. You see, he was born on British soil to allegedly a mother who is American. See, with his mom being an American, he technically has dual citizenship. So he is an American and he probably has a British passport as well. The question now around taxes for him might be a little bit different, and he be able to take advantage of the FATCA UK US agreement and not have to declare a lot of this stuff that little Betty is going to have to do. So now, when we look back and reflect upon these weird articles that were coming out saying that Meghan and Betty were excluded from the Queen's will just a couple days before she passed, is now making sense. Obviously, it's understandable that the Queen left nothing to Meghan Markle. However, little Betty, I can believe the Queen removed her because of the implications, not because she had anything against this invisible child, but the implications and the risks that it posed to the rest of the family's fortune. Something tells me that if the IRS begins to poke around and investigate little Betty's title and the monies tied to it, I guarantee the king will take some kind of action. If these kids are not supposed to be in the line of succession, you better believe they're going to be removed swiftly. Little Betty, the American, is the smoking gun to threatening this entire fortune. So now, when you think about the whispers that we have been hearing about a separation and Harry contacting lawyers and behind the scene discussions on dividing assets, etc., and the custody battle with the money associated going to little Betty would be subjected under this FATCA law. As you can see, this is going to be a mess should these two have to divorce and figure out how to take care of these kids and who's going to be supplying that financial support. Where is it going to come from? So now let's talk about Meghan for a quick second. Under FATCA, every US citizen must report every single foreign bank account, including the amount the account was at its highest amount and the dates associated with it. So if Meghan was in the UK merching behind the palace's back, and that income came in, as well as the income that she was getting as a working member of the family, did she report any of that information? Something tells me that she didn't. And I say that because I believe at the time she had diplomatic immunity. We all know that Megsy thinks she's above the law and does whatever she pleases, so does anyone honestly believe that she paid her taxes during the time she was a working royal? No, I highly doubt it, and I think that there should be an investigation opened up on that. Could it be all this distraction and deflection could be focusing away from any of the financial aspects to all of this? I think so. Something tells me the sketchy, shady duo did not think this far out when they decided they were Mexiting. If down the road money is given to little Betty and it goes over the certain threshold that is given, then the American government has legal access to the disclosure of those accounts of where that money is coming from. And if it's coming from the Windsor wealth, then yes, that exposes the family's finances. And, the United States wants to know that information for sure. The US is not going to pass up getting their fair share of the pot. Hopefully that there are some powers that be in Congress recognize there is a massive financial gain from the birth of this little blessing named Little Betty. So what are you waiting for, Uncle Sam? Stop wasting time with sucking the middle class dry and go after these accounts and take your fair share in accordance to the law. I think we should be asking more questions and making noise about it. Little Betty is not part of the British government despite Harry being her father. She is 100% an American and subjected to US tax laws. So if she is receiving money as a result of inheriting stuff from the UK, then those laws need to be applied appropriately. Also, whether or not Harry has been paying taxes here, he still has to declare money that he brought with him here. So did he declare the money that was inherited by Diana? That should also be looked into as well. I am sure with 11 shell companies that Meghan and Harry have set up, at least one or two of them go to an offshore account. I think the IRS should be notified of these shell companies in order to do their investigative work properly. After what we have been seeing happening to President number 45, it's clear nobody is above the law. And this rule of thought needs to be applied to these two jerk-offs that are sitting in Montecito, California. And for all those that want to see these two invisible children removed from the line of succession because there has been no evidence that these two children came from the body of the so-called mother, then this is a way to go, especially if there is a potential for the American government to get into the financial affairs of the monarchy. I'm just putting that out there. Harry made the worst decision of his life, and sadly, there's going to be other consequences that come with this decision. Marrying Meghan is going to have consequences for this family for the next couple decades, for sure. And with the existence of these two alleged children, these consequences are going to spill over onto them, which is the sad part about all of this, because they are the innocent ones in this game that Meghan and Harry selfishly have been playing. When we look at this photo, Diana looks like a saint. King Charles's cash for honors, we've already seen that being dismissed. As far as Prince Andrew goes, I think it's neck and neck between Meghan Markle being a thorn in the king's side, especially if these two do divorce. I think that that's going to overshadow anything that happens with Prince Andrew. We know that drama will definitely ensue with Meghan and Harry in splitting up. That's just my thoughts. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with some of this stuff? Anyhow, definitely leave your comments. I'm interested to see what you guys think of this. And you know it, as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
I was such a fraud.